Hello, welcome to Comcast Local Edition. I'm Amy Allison. Chris Moylan, Councilmember of Sunnyvale, is here today to help clarify some of the stuff that Sunnyvale residents are going to see on the ballot in November, starting, well, there's a bunch of stuff that's going to be on the ballot, including finance reform.
That's right. We had a charter review committee that went through our governing document, our constitution, as it were, to try to fix all the little glitches and stuff that was wrong with it, and also make a few possible changes. And the voters will get to vote on all of those things separately. Some of it's housekeeping, but there's some things like changing the mayor's term from 1 year to 2 years so that not everyone is the mayor, but the people actually have to, politic and vote for who wants to be mayor.
And that's a rotating position out of the council members. They get voted on by their peers to be the
right,
mayor.
And it has been a rotating position, but if this charter ballot amendment passes, then it can't be rotating because not everyone would have a turn. And so then mayors would still be picked by their peers, but they wouldn't be entitled to an automatic turn.
Well, what do you think about that?
I think that the Charter Commission made a good point in which they said probably not everyone should be the mayor. Some people are better at running meetings than others. Some people have time to go to ribbon cuttings. Ron Sweigels went to something like 100 ribbon cuttings last year.
You're kidding.
There's no way I could do that. With my job teaching chemistry at Stanford, there's no way I could do that. So, some people's regular jobs are more conducive to allowing them to do the ceremonial aspects of being a mayor, and other people are better at running Robert's Rules of Order, So I think the commission probably had a good idea. It'll be interesting to see if the voters pass it. But you asked about the campaign finance reform. That is a very interesting wild card. That is an advisory measure only to see if Sunnyvale is interested in being the first city, at least in our area, to consider doing public financing of campaigns.
So we always hear public financing, but what does that really mean? Does that mean our tax dollars pay for campaigns?
Yes. That's exactly what it means.
People might, I'm not paying for someone's campaign. I mean, there's that immediate, like, we don't have enough taxes to pay for schools and for roads, and why would we do this? And what's the logic behind that?
The logic behind it is that the proponents say the campaigns are currently being paid for now by a small number of very influential contributors, and though the people who are not among that group of contributors sometimes are frustrated and feel that they don't have as much of a say in the electoral process, and they would like to just face the fact that people having to run for office is a necessary function. Since we have term limits, we make people leave office after 2 terms. People have to run, that means. And therefore, the proponents would argue that we should just pay for it so that everyone spends the same amount of money on the campaigns, and that the campaign costs don't escalate out of control. So the argument is to make sure that the playing field is level and that the cost is not too high.
Well, and this is not a radical concept, because a lot of cities have at least matching funds that they provide for candidates who meet particular dollar amounts that they are able to raise. So there is some public financing support at some level in different cities in the Bay Area.
There are a number of cities nationwide that have done it, and of course the federal government does it too. On your income tax form, you notice, do you want $3 of your taxes to go to this
and
fund?
Since I'm so mad I just paid my taxes, I'm like, no, I'm not giving them one more dollar.
And 90% of the taxpayers do the same thing, and that's why the proponents of campaign financing think that's kind of a bad way to do it. I always go in favor of it, because then I could say, well, at least I had control over $3 of how my money was spent, whereas the rest of it, they can spend it however they want.
Interesting. And so for campaign finance reform, the voters are going to be able to decide if that's going to go forward?
They're going to decide whether we should even pursue the idea. It's just a purely advisory measure. The way it normally works is it's a voluntary thing for a candidate. So a candidate can either choose to accept public financing or not. If the candidate chooses to accept public financing, they get a certain guaranteed amount of money, and they have to agree not to go out and get contributions from everyone else.
That would really change the landscape. Well, thank you so much. It sounds like a really interesting thing. You have to come back and tell us how it's going.
I'll be happy to do it.
All right, our guest today, Chris Moylan, who's a council member in Sunnyvale. And thanks to you for joining us today on Comcast Local Edition.